Hi, I'm Randy Schroeder. Thank you for spending the next few moments with me. The title of this discussion is The Evolution of Network Marketing. I will admit to you that as I present the facts, it's entirely likely that my opinion of those facts will come through. I will try to make that as limited as I can. I would like to simply describe to you what the evolution has been and have you gain the opportunity to truly understand the industry without me coloring it and flavoring it too much. I'd like this to be an unbiased discussion. Network marketing, what is it? Where did it come from? Where is it now? And where might it go? I think that when one comes to understand the nature and history of the industry, it is easy to anticipate what may take place in the future. Best way to predict the future is to carefully and critically study the past, in my experience. So where did it come from? The first direct selling company was born in 1903. The name of the company was J.R. Watkins & Company. You may remember it. Your mother, your grandmother, or your great-grandmother, in all likelihood, if you live in the United States of America, had in her pantry or in her kitchen cupboard, she had a bottle of Watkins vanilla, cinnamon, spices, pepper, nutmeg, Watkins product. It's a great old direct selling company, the oldest of all. It actually started in 1903. People sometimes query me, Randy, do these companies really last? It seems like they start and they go away. Well, that's not true of a network marketing company. That's true of a company. Way more companies start and fail than start and go on to long-term success. J.R. Watkins Corporation, based in Winona, Minnesota. It started in 1903. That's the very same year as Harley-Davidson, and it continues to deliver really high-quality, great products to consumers, not just in the United States, but around the world today. That's where it all began. Oftentimes people incorrectly consider the launch point of this industry to be many, many, many years later, when a couple of individuals named Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel started a company called Amway, the American way. They failed to know that even before Amway, Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel were involved in another direct selling company. It was called California Vitamins. Ultimately, Amway acquired California Vitamins. But where did it all begin? It all began with J.R. Watkins, and literally it was the Watkins man, typically the Watkins man, who went door to door. It was direct selling. It was not what we've come to know as network marketing, sometimes called multi-level marketing. It was direct selling, with the income being derived by buying products from the company at wholesale and selling them to others at retail. That's the way that it began in 1903. Sometime over the course of the next 30 or so years, they made it possible for one to not only sell Watkins products, but also to enroll or to recruit others who would sell Watkins products. As I referenced, this is not a video about Watkins, but Watkins will always have a special place in my heart. Why? Because so many years ago, when I was 8 years old, or I was 9, or I was 10, I know I wasn't 12 yet because I was in Cub Scouts, not Boy Scouts. I read an article, a little ad showed up in Boys Life magazine, and it asked if I'd like to make some money on a part-time basis. And way back so many years ago, my answer was yes. The reason I became involved in this direct selling industry was because I wanted to make some money on a part-time basis, and that's why so many people do it today, all of these years later. And in fact, it's a fascinating thing. This past Christmas, my wife Samantha sought out people that I had sold Watkins products to, knocking on their door 50 years ago, and acquired some of those old bottles that I had sold way back then, and now they're in my office. It is a legacy. It's a part of my life. When people ask me, what do I think about direct selling? It's been in my life since I was 8 years old. It's blessed my life throughout that whole time. What do I think about it? I think it's incredible. I think it's fantastic. Well, the evolution of the industry. It all started with Watkins products, and of course, success breeds what? Imitators. Others come along. There were several copies, if you will, of Watkins product. One sprung up not so many miles away called the W.T. Raleigh Company, and on it went. And finally, here comes California Vitamins selling nutritional products. They borrowed that success of Watkins, and they likewise allowed people to buy products from the company at wholesale and sell them at retail. They also allowed each new recruiting member or each new participant to recruit others to sell on their behalf and earn a sales management type of income. And they extended the compensation plan one generation further, making it true multi-level or network marketing. Two brilliant people who have done so much for so many, Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel, were distributors in California Vitamins, and they said, we can do this better still. And they launched a company that some people love and some people love to hate. It's called Amway. That happened in 1959, and it's a great fascination to me that I hear people talk in derisive terms of Amway, and certainly I don't. Amway does in excess of $12 billion in annual sales. Can you imagine that? A company formed in 1959 that has gone on to greater and greater and greater success. It truly is a global juggernaut. If I were to pose the question to you, what can you buy from Amway? I think the correct answer would be just about anything, and that's true. You can buy just about anything from Amway, and you can buy just about anything from Amway just about anywhere in the world. Now, along the way, there are some lessons to be learned. We can learn of the positive and proper decisions and the positive outcomes that result, and we can learn from the negative as well. There came a time, and I can reflect upon my first exposure to Amway. That actually happened when I was not even yet 12 years old. I went back to that very same Boys Life magazine, and it posed the question, would I like to make water wetter? And I learned about an Amway product called SA8, and I added that to my bag of tricks. When I'd knock on the door and say, hi, I'm Randy Schroeder, I would describe to them an Amway product, and I would describe to them a Watkins product and other things that were there as well. And so I've seen and observed and been an interested observer of Amway for so very, very, very many years. But here was a fascination for me. There came a time, and I would venture a guess that perhaps it was in the late 60s or the early 1970s, many years ago, as we contemplate and consider this evolution of network marketing, there came a time when a certain recruiting methodology turned off an entire population. And what was that methodology? It was when people were taught to invite others to see their business without explaining to them what was about to take place. They invited people to a pool party, and right at the last minute out came a whiteboard and they started drawing circles on it. They invited people to a family function, and before they knew it, it was an Amway business presentation, and it became a national joke. Even though success continued, it continued in this closed-loop network that was Amway, but outside of the network itself, it became a joke and it became a derisive term to be an Amway distributor. Notwithstanding that challenge, sales continued to grow and to grow and to grow. And whenever a new concept begins to get big, one thing that we can be sure of is there will be scrutiny, and with scrutiny will come proofs of validity of idea and concept, or proofs that the idea is not valid. Now, along the way, so many people were invited to pool parties and found out it was an Amway function. That put kind of a negative taste in people's mouths. People decided that they equated the entire industry of direct selling with Amway, and there was some validity to that idea. It was certainly the biggest then, it remains the biggest today. And they decided they didn't like the entire industry. As the company grew, and boy did it grow. Let me tell you how quickly it grew. The company started in 1959, and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. By the time 1972 came along, the company was doing $600 million US in sales. Can you imagine that? $600 million US. With that much volume being done, enough money is being made by distributors, enough things being done well, enough things being done not as well, that now came scrutiny, evaluations, and in fact regulatory scrutiny brought about by a handful of consumer complaints. And there was then the first great proving ground for this direct selling industry and what I've here described as the evolution of network marketing. A federal lawsuit. A lawsuit was filed by the Federal Trade Commission accusing Amway of being a pyramid scheme. And there was then a period of complete uncertainty. Not very many new network marketing companies were successfully launched in that period. Amway themselves had a difficult time growing. I mean, my gosh, could you really invite someone to join you in an enterprise that was being sued by the Federal Trade Commission of the United States? Probably not. And so between 1972 and 1976, the company just treaded water, treaded water, treaded water. And finally, here comes the groundbreaking result of that litigation. And that is what we've come to know as the Amway decision. And if any of you would like to know and understand what really are the rules that govern direct selling, there's been additions to this basic body of knowledge, but those rules were identified in what is called the Amway decision, which occurred in 1979. And in 1979, the Federal Trade Commission ruled, a federal court in the state of Michigan ruled that Amway was not in fact a pyramid. They ruled in favor of Amway and ruled against the United States government, and the Federal Trade Commission said Amway is not a pyramid and that this method of distribution is a legitimate and equitable form, an equitable way to move products to end-line users and also to contemplate those participants who set that pattern of activities in motion. Well, that opened the floodgates. Suddenly there was a playing field And that is the way that I like to describe it. We know very well what are the rules. They are clearly articulated in that Amway decision. If you can imagine a football field has end zones, and a football field has sidelines, and a football field has hash marks. It's got a 50-yard line. And the rules that govern direct selling still broadly outlined in that Amway decision itself, with some further information that's occurred since then, but broadly described there. It says what the rules are. Now, every once in a while, sometimes it seems quite frequently, a direct selling company is sanctioned by the Federal Trade Commission. I can think of a few offhand in the last few years where companies have violated the rules that were set up. They were not operating inside the boundaries of the playing field as it was described, and so they were legitimately shut down, called to question and shut down by the United States Federal Trade Commission. The Trade Commission has an obligation, a duty, and responsibility to make sure that enterprises of this nature operating within the boundaries of the football field. The thing that I need you to understand is that the boundaries of the football field are well established. The field says, yes, you can do this. This is legitimate, it's real, proven, stated definitively by a United States court in the state of Michigan in 1979 called the Amway decision. When we see companies that fall into difficulties, that get in trouble, it is because they are not operating inside the guidelines. It's because they're operating outside of the boundaries of the playing field. A few of the simple boundaries are that the company should not be making income claims. It cannot describe to you what you might earn. That's outside of the playing field. I can describe to you what my own income successes are, so long as it's factual and true. That's inside the boundaries of the playing field. But if I were to suggest to you what your earnings possibility might be, that would be outside of the boundaries of the playing field. The ruling requires that you have customers in addition to simply recruiting distributors. One of the legitimate complaints of the industry has been, I remember so many times I posed the question myself when I was getting involved in a career type environment as opposed to as a little boy knocking on doors selling a few products from wholesale to retail. My question was, who's going to buy this stuff? If all we ever do is recruit distributors, who's going to buy this stuff? And I completely misunderstood that a distributor in a network marketing company is one of its customers. Network marketing companies sell products to distributors for their own consumption. They also sell products to distributors with the absolute anticipation that they will have customers of their own. Any direct selling company whose product will not stand on its own, whose products don't have price competitiveness in the marketplace such that the individual distributor can have a number of customers, would fall outside of the boundaries of that playing field as I've described it. All of this well articulated in the Amway decision, which as I've described was rendered in 1979. And so clear since then we've known what the rules are. When periodically a direct selling company gets itself in trouble, real simple, it's operating outside of the boundaries, the playing field. When every once in a while we see a company be criticized harshly and yet survive the scrutiny, it simply means that they were inside the boundaries of the playing field. Now, if a company is operating on the 1 foot line, they can expect constant scrutiny. They can expect challenges over and over and over again. I stated to you that it would be my hope and my goal that in this discussion I would describe fairly and equitably what is this evolution of network marketing without editorializing and letting my self-interest get too much involved. But the very fact that I'm involved with KANNAWAY tells you what I believe. I believe that the company is not just operating inside the boundaries of the playing field. I believe that it operates between the 45-yard line somewhere and that it's well inside the hash lines. Not just inside the rules, but well inside the rules. Rules that I understand, rules that I've studied, rules that I've stayed fresh and current and up to date. This is an effective, not just effective, but an extraordinary way to take a product from the manufacturer to the end line user. It's an extraordinary way for the participating member to generate part-time income or full-time income. When it's done right, the fundamental principles governing this direct selling or network marketing industry are absolutely a thing of beauty. I don't just like it, I love it. Back to the evolution. So with the Amway decision being rendered saying, yes, this is an effective and legitimate way of moving products to end-line users, and it's okay to compensate distributors as a result of creating a multi-level organization, now the lid comes off and bang, here comes a whole flurry of companies. And as a result of this rapid development of new companies being attracted to this now proven legitimacy in the industry, a whole lot of new experiences were occurred, a whole lot of new experiences. New knowledge was gained, and some really great companies entered the industry in the years not too far after that Amway decision. For example, Herbalife. Herbalife is a big direct selling company doing something in excess of $6 billion in annual sales. Herbalife does business all over the world, and Herbalife has benefited so very many people. Herbalife is one of those companies that joins Amway in proving the long-term legitimacy of the business. Herbalife did something special in those early days of its involvement. Amway paid its members for products they would buy from the company, and still does, products they would buy from the company and sell to another, one way to generate income. Then they would pay 1, 2, 3 generations in depth on the productivity of others that you brought into the organization. When Herbalife entered the arena in 1984 and when Nu Skin entered the arena in 1989, they changed the industry permanently and, in my estimation, for the better. How and why? These were the first 2 companies to recognize that leadership is scarce. There's not enough leadership to go around. The proliferation of companies that launched in the immediate aftermath of the Amway decision by and large had compensation plans that would only pay leadership 1 or 2 and sometimes 3 generations deep. And so when a person joined the organization in greater depth away from the true leader, there were increasing numbers of people who didn't have access to that leader because he or she was not being properly compensated for them. With Herbalife and then with Nu Skin, the first compensation plans to say, no, we can pay in greater depth. We can pay 4 or 5 or 6 levels of depth. Suddenly, it became financially rewarding enough for a person like me who left a stock brokerage career. I left an industry that I worked hard to get into. I was a relatively well compensated stockbroker. I could never have traded that income for the income of a network marketing leader until compensation plans acknowledged that you need to pay in greater depth. That couldn't take place, by the way, until technology changed. It wouldn't have mattered if someone wanted to pay in greater depth in the earliest days of Watkins or even in the early or early to mid-teen years of Amway. Computer technology had not yet been created that would allow those compensation mechanisms to properly report and track and pay. So it couldn't happen. A lot of things had to occur in the evolution of our society and technology in order for the evolution of network marketing to continue. Now, along the way, there have been a host of things that have been good, and there have been a few things that have been not as good. Some network marketing companies got involved in the arena because they saw the successes of Amway, they saw the success of Herbalife, they saw the success of Nu Skin, they saw these companies becoming New York Stock Exchange traded giants, they saw wealth being created. And too many companies entered the arena with products that were just also products, not special, not unique, not especially well priced. And along the way, there were multiple attempts to change the compensation mechanisms. I believe that every attempt to change the mechanism was an attempt to do good. Some of them did, and some of them did not. In the earliest iteration of direct selling compensation, as soon as it stopped being just wholesale to retail buying and selling, the first generation of compensation mechanisms were called stair-step breakaway plans. And the way a stair-step breakaway plan works is when you first get involved in the business, you get paid on the handful of people you personally enroll and your customers and their customers. And as soon as the volume hits a certain threshold, usually not too great a threshold, then that group breaks away from you. It's no longer in your personal sales organization. And now instead of earning perhaps 20% on that volume, as it becomes a breakaway, you'll earn 5%. And so that breakaway felt to an awful lot of people. I heard the siren song again and again and again. Breakaway is takeaway, breakaway is takeaway. It's absolutely not true. The truth is that a properly constructed breakaway program provokes behaviors among leadership where great depth is created in leadership hierarchy with leader built upon leader built upon leader. But the reality is that abuses sprang up in some of those breakaway programs where people understood that in order to get paid on increasing depth in that leadership block, that they would need to do their non-breakaway volume. And for those of you who've never been in the industry, this may not mean much to you, but for those who have seen it, you'll remember and acknowledge the fact that far too many people bought products and stacked them into their garage. There was a time when the term was widely used around the industry, oh, he or she is garage qualified. What did that mean? They were buying products they didn't want or need for their own consumption. They didn't have a customer for it. They were acquiring the products to meet the demands of the compensation plan, and they became garage qualified to get paid on their breakaway groups. They bought products they didn't want or need. And that is by definition wrong. That's outside the boundaries of the playing field. One of the rules in the Amway decision says that before a participant in a direct selling compensation program, before that participant places another order, 70% of the last order should be sold. And so by definition, if a person is buying products month after month after month, they're neither selling nor using to meet the demands of a compensation plan, then that falls into a violation of that football field. Instead of it being legitimate, it is illegitimate, and it begs for scrutiny. And that scrutiny leads to further problems and criticism, and so on we go. Well, in an effort to eliminate that problem, the next iteration of compensation plans in direct selling was pioneered by a company called Zango. It's the first one that I recall. Zango remains a successful direct selling company, and they pioneered a compensation concept that was called unilevel. And that unilevel compensation methodology was designed not to pay on breakaway groups, but to be paid on multiple levels of individuals. Well, that sounds really cool because it's easier. And you know what? Some things that are easier are better, but frequently easier is just easier, not better. And so those first iterations of unilevel were attractive to people. Why? They were attractive because, remember, the siren song was, breakaway is takeaway. It's not going to be a breakaway. This is unilevel. You don't have to have group volume. Well, the bad news is that getting paid on 7 or 8 or 9 levels of one individual's orders is not at all the same as getting paid on multiple generations of leadership groups that were evidenced in those breakaway compensation plans. And so people discovered early on in those earliest iterations of unilevel that no big checks were created. And here I want you all to know and understand, this is not simply an expression of my opinion. This is a statement of fact, born of knowledge. I've lived this, and what I know is this. A direct selling compensation plan must truly reward true leadership, because leadership is scarce. And that unilevel compensation structure, as originally designed, simply did not connect together productive leadership, and no great company was born of the early iterations of unilevel. And on we go. What came next? Oh gosh, there will be those who will receive this now and watch it, and they will not like what I'm about to say. Nevertheless, it is my opinion. My opinion is that one of the worst things that ever happened in the direct selling industry in this ongoing evolution was the development of a compensation mechanism that is called binary. Binary means a variety of things. It of course means that you only have 2 legs. I will simply say, as one who's lived it at the highest level, one who has been properly rewarded by a binary compensation plan, I believe that binary is the least effective way to compensate people in our industry. I further believe that it's the least fair way to compensate people in our industry. And I believe that with very rare exceptions, companies operating binary compensation plans are painting themselves into a corner because the compensation plan will always run out of money. Now, that particular statement was an expression of my opinion. And there will be other people, especially those generating meaningful incomes in binary comp plans, that will raise their hands in dismay that I said that. I'm describing to you what I believe to be the absolute truth, the single worst thing that ever happened in direct selling compensation mechanisms was the advent of binary. And I believe that when companies will continue to launch with that kind of a comp mechanism are coming to an end in the not too distant future. Well, along the way, let's continue this discussion, this evolution of network marketing. What started out as a direct selling opportunity only. We buy at wholesale and sell at retail. Then turned into a multi-level opportunity. And finally, as the years have continued and compensation plans have continued to be further evolved, it's become evident to me that this industry of ours has evolved to this very comfortable point. A properly constructed direct selling company will produce products that are unique, that are well priced, products that cannot be easily replicated or replaced elsewhere by the consumer. They'll be products that represent proper value, as I've described, and they will be products that have the capacity to provoke an emotional response. A product that changes the way that you look, that changes the way that you feel, that changes the way that you feel about yourself, or in a measurable, not simply anecdotal way, impacts your health. The company's first obligation is to produce that kind of a product idea and to continue producing those kinds of products. You see, far too frequently, as I continue to observe all that's in the industry, I will hear this extraordinary enthusiasm for a product or an ingredient. Common sense and wisdom suggests that the company must be a company that is a continual product developer. Why? Because no idea stays hot. That's just the truth. no idea stays hot. Every single idea has its lifespan. Some lifespans are relatively short, some lifespans are relatively longer. Once again, I do my best to not editorialize too much, but why am I at KANNAWAY? I am at KANNAWAY because I love the CBD story, but why am I at KANNAWAY? Because over the course of the next 15 years, this company will continue to develop and deliver products, every single thing that can be made from hemp. And there is a long, long, long runway in front of us. I remember back there was a period of time in this direct selling industry when 4 or 5 companies launched their company with the idea of enzyme CoQ10. Enzyme CoQ10, as far as I can tell, is a really great ingredient. I need to hear a little bit about it. I guess it's good for heart health. But you know what? No company has launched that product idea anytime recently. Why? Because it's not special. It can be had anywhere. No idea stays hot. There have been 10 new ideas about cardiovascular health since that first thought of CoQ10 was first espoused. And sometimes it's much worse than that. I remember a few years ago, a handful of direct selling companies launched with the idea that shark cartilage would prevent or cure some forms of horrible diseases, specifically cancer. Shark cartilage. Well, all that resulted in was a whole bunch of sharks getting slaughtered, and along the way it was discovered that sharks have cancer themselves. How can they possibly cause you not to get it if they've got it themselves? Crazy, absolutely crazy ideas sometimes launch these businesses. Once again, I can't stop myself, I suppose, from talking about the great satisfaction I have with the idea of being not just with a single product idea, but the concept of having a broad group of product opportunities so that the company can continually to successfully introduce new products with specific new categories, specific new interests and intents of the products, but all within a central theme that causes the company to retain focus. Those things are easy to say and they're hard to do. That's why it is relatively easy for a company to launch and have its first season of growth. It is so very, very difficult to have that growth become stabilized and then have the second season of growth. That, by the way, leads me to the next topic of discussion in this evolution of the direct selling industry. When I was first introduced to the industry, I was taught this. I was taught that all companies, here we have this X and the Y axis, I was taught that all companies start here in the bottom left-hand corner of the graph, and the vast majority of them finish there. They don't ever get off the ground floor. And then I was taught that every once in a while, one of these companies makes it past that early testing ground, and the product, the service, the opportunity stops being obscured and it starts to become popularized, and then follows this period of exponential growth. And that, I was told, is when all the money is made. Well, that can be true and it can be false. Money is made by people who develop certain set of skills in advance of that growth, who have developed certain set of character attributes in advance of that growth, who then recognize the moment of opportunity and work hard. That's what it is. It's not so simple as getting involved in a company that's about to grow. If it were so easy, there'd be a whole lot more people who'd become wealthy in this industry. And then, as the story goes, if you shoot an arrow into the sky, it can only go so high. And that company that started on the bottom left-hand corner of the graph, it finally stopped being obscured, started to become popularized, it grows, and then it plateaus, and that's kind of where the story always ended. As I've been a student of this industry throughout my participation in it, I can now tell you that it's been proven multiple times that a company can have multiple S-curves. Let's go back to our discussion of Amway. Amway started in 1959, down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the graph. It grew and it grew and it grew and it grew. It had a period of pretty explosive growth, reaching $600 million in sales, and then it stabilized at that level for a number of years as the fight was fought and the battle was won. Amway's legal and legitimate and good, and suddenly the floodgates opened and the next S-curve, the theory of multiple S-curves. See, S-curve number 1, 0 to $600 million in sales, a period of stabilization, bang, the next S-curve went to over $2 billion in sales. That was driven by what? That was driven by product line extension. It stopped being a handful of consumer goods, shoe polish and soaps, and it started becoming everything. And then the next S-curve was the most powerful one yet. That was the dramatic exponential growth created by international expansion. And so now it's been proven first by Amway, then by Herbalife, then by Nu Skin, then by Forever Living Products, and on it goes, then by Sunrider and others. It's been proven that a company need not have only one cycle of growth. There can be multiple S-curves. Now, for a company to become one of those who has not yet experienced its first S-curve, to become one that can have multiple S-curves producing billions of dollars in sales into the next generation. For that to occur, there must be a number of things in place, most of which have been described here already. The company must, absolutely must, operate within the boundaries of the playing field. And it cannot be operating on the 5-yard line. It cannot be operating right against the borders. If so, the ongoing regulatory pressure and scrutiny will cause too many people to say, not me, I don't want that risk. It must operate inside the hash lines and inside the 40-yard lines. KANNAWAY does. The next thing that must be in place is the product must have the unique capacity to provoke emotional response. It must be highly consumable. A perfect direct selling product is one that matters to you. Perfect one is one that matters to you, not just to me. A perfect one that matters to you, reasonably priced, highly consumable. Why? Because the foundation of success in our industry is created by auto ship. When people put their credit card on file and say, I want to receive it again, month after month after month after month. Why? Because I love it, it's well priced. Has to be highly consumable, well priced, and a perfect network marketing product will be one that lends itself to product line extension. Why? Because no idea stays fresh, no idea stays current. So if we have a general theme of product idea and concept that lends itself well to product line extension within the concept of the theme, then we've gone a long ways. We've got a long ways towards success. High consumability, uniqueness, features that can't be easily replicated someplace else. Well, on we go in this evolution of network marketing. Now we have an industry that is proven. We have a concept that has been assured to be legal. We have an understanding of why some companies would be called into question and some would survive the test and some would not. We have some basic understanding of the kinds of compensation methodologies that have worked and that have produced great incomes. And now, once again, clearly and obviously, I'm a KANNAWAY brand ambassador. The fact that I choose to be here tells you that this is where I think the best opportunity is in this industry. I'm an advocate for the entire industry. I think there are many good companies. Being a good company and a good opportunity is not the same thing. Being an opportunity to create some part-time income and a chance to perhaps break through to substantial incomes, that's not the same thing. Having a company that produces an opportunity where you can expect success for 3 or 4 years in a short envelope of some fad, that's not the same as being in front of a complete dramatic sea change that makes it possible for this to be what you're still doing 2 and 3 decades from now. It takes a lot. The fact that I am a KANNAWAY brand ambassador, that this is my exact, full-time, big-time, all-the-time effort, tells you what I think. Based on all of my years of experience, I think this is the single finest place to be in the industry. Now, in order for that to be true, there has to be something new and important to say about compensation. I told you already that I think that binary is the single worst thing that's happened in our industry. I told you that breakaway, while I respect it, and I've had some great experiences in breakaway compensation plans, breakaway is takeaway, so they say. Far too many people buy products, not because they want them or need them, but to satisfy the demands of the compensation plan. I described to you the fact that the early iterations of a unilevel plan, as it's described, simply wouldn't hold enough volume and payout to hold a true leader in the business. And so that brings us to the point of the KANNAWAY iteration of a properly constructed unilevel compensation plan. Now, the purpose of this video is not to give you a full description of it, except to tell you that I consider this to be the next step forward in direct selling compensation. It understands finally, the KANNAWAY compensation plan finally understands the need to spread income among people early in the business, not just late. In this industry, there is and has always been so much discussion about how great it's going to be. There's always some huge guy on stage making enormous amounts of money with a Lamborghini. I've been that guy. There's always that person, 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them. What there has never been is row upon row upon row upon row of people making 3,000, 5,000, 7,000, 9, 500, 700, 6,000, 16,000, 20. Haven't been near enough of those. The KANNAWAY compensation plan has been constructed with this thought in mind. We can produce enormous incomes. We can produce incomes that rival, equal, or exceed the greatest checks in the industry. But we will do so based upon the successes of those people who are accessing the early components in the comp plan. It's a unique provision, a series of unique provisions in a well-constructed unilevel plan. It is fully compressed and it has unique features allowing for payouts in depth, potentially to infinity within the confines of a unilevel comp plan. And the most important thing that I can say about this is whoever you are, you can meet your financial needs. If you need to make $1,000 in the next handful of weeks, I can show you how to do it. I would love to do so. If you need to replace your full-time job or career income, you can do that in the KANNAWAY compensation plan. I'd love to show you how to do it. If what you want to have is a breakthrough financial experience that you cannot have in your current job, career, avocation, or profession, I believe you can do that with all that KANNAWAY is, inclusive of the compensation mechanism and so forth. I've talked for a long time. As I contemplate what's gone on in this industry, this went from the first spark of an idea, in 1903, when a fellow named J.R. Watkins said, I've got products and I believe the best way to sell them is person to person. It's not having a person go to the store, but it's about having the store come to the person. What a brilliant thought that was way back in 1903. And that idea grew and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew until it had its expression in Amway, a company that does in excess of $10 billion in annual sales around the world. And here's the key. When I used to query and question, why do so many people stay involved in Amway when it seems like such a ridiculously small percentage of them make any money? And finally one day the bell rang. Oh, it's because people are having a life experience. There's something about that total experience that makes their life better than it would be if they were not in Amway. They're being compensated in ways that are not realized in their check. I found out that a properly constructed direct selling company will add value to people's lives in multiple ways that are neither married to the check nor to the specific product outcome. It's when people are engaged not just in a company, but in a community whose primary purpose is lifelong personal growth and development. When you join our company, I believe what you'll experience is the following. I think that you will find that you are walking into not just a business, but you are walking into an organization, a group of people who have a stated purpose of getting better. I invite you to join us in that thought. We invite you to join us in a community whose primary purpose is lifelong personal growth and development. We invite you to join us in a community where, yes, we'll teach you the basic skills required to succeed in the direct selling industry, but we'll teach so many more things. We will teach how to be more happy more of the time. You know, so many years ago, a person asked me, what did I really want? And I said, well, I wanted a Lamborghini, and I got one, and I found out I was the same miserable guy in a Lamborghini as I was without one. Over the course of the next number of years, with some great experiences and some more challenging, I've learned how to so live my life so that I'm more happy more of the time. Included in that is participation in this industry. Today, my deepest belief is that the greatest way to participate in this industry is to participate in the KANNAWAY. It started in 1903 with Watkins products. It had its first major break and jumped forward with Amway. Since Amway, there have been many important companies enter the industry. Herbalife in 1984, Nu Skin in 1991, Forever Living Products, and a host of others in the decade, in the decades following shortly thereafter. I had to get my dates right in my mind. And then I think one of the most important things that have happened in this industry was when in the years of 2014, when the spark was first lit, up until now, as we near the conclusion of 2016, this 5-year period between 2014 and 2020, the years when KANNAWAY becomes a significant company in the industry, this is a company that will make a mark on the industry. When some number of years from now, someone talks about the evolution of network marketing, they will talk about the great contributions that KANNAWAY made and continues to make to the industry. That's my deepest belief. That's why I'm involved with KANNAWAY, and that's why I invite your participation in this great company as well. God bless you. See you soon.